Hey everyone, welcome back to Drill Coding. If you are preparing for Spring or Spring Boot interview, then this video is for you. We'll cover the most important interview questions with clear explanations and practical examples. So let's get started. Let's start with one of the most common Spring interview question. What is the Spring framework? In simple words, Spring is a Java framework that makes application development easier. It provides features like dependency injection, inversion of control, aspect-oriented programming, transaction management, Spring MVC for web applications, integration with databases, messaging systems, and cloud technologies. Now you might ask, how does it make development easier? So let me explain with a simple example. Imagine you have a user service that needs a user repository. In a normal Java application, you create these objects yourself using the new keyword and connect them manually, like we are creating here. So as your project grows, the number of classes also grows, and managing all those objects become difficult. This is where Spring helps. Spring creates the objects for you, manages them, and connects them automatically whenever they are needed. Because of this, your code becomes cleaner, easier to maintain, and much easier to test. That's why almost every modern Java backend application uses Springs. Here, this is repository annotation. It tells Spring that this class is responsible for database operations. And service annotation marks the business logic class. Auto-wired annotation asks Spring to inject the required object automatically. So instead of creating new user repository method, Spring will simply create it internally. So Spring is an open source Java framework that simplifies enterprise application development by managing objects and their dependencies automatically. Now let's move forward to the second question. What is a Spring Bean? A Spring Bean is simply an object that is created, managed, and maintained by the Spring IOC container. Now think about a normal Java program first. Whenever you need an object, you write the new keyword and create it yourself. Like in this example, we are creating and managing the object here, but in Spring, you simply mark your class with annotations like service, component, or repository. So when the application starts, Spring automatically creates the object and keeps it ready for you. So whenever another class needs that object, Spring provides it automatically. That's exactly what a Spring Bean is. A Spring Bean is simply an object that is created and managed by the Spring IOC container. What is the IOC container? You can think of the IOC container as the manager of entire Spring application. When your application starts, Spring first creates the IOC container. Then it looks through your project for classes marked with annotation like component, service, repository, and controller. So whenever it finds one of these classes, it creates an object and keeps it inside the container. Let me show you with a simple example. We used service annotation here. So Spring detects this class during the component scanning, and IOC container creates a user service bean. Now let's look at the controller. Here we used controller annotation. So Spring also creates a user controller bean here. Then we used auto wired annotation. So Spring checks whether user controller needs a user service. If yes, it looks inside the IOC container and finds the user service bean, then injects it automatically. And here this method is called using the bean managed by the IOC container. So in simple words, the IOC container is the core component of Spring that creates, manages, stores, and provides Spring Beans throughout the application. Now let's see question 4th. What is inversion of control? So inversion of control is a design principle in which the responsibility of creating and managing objects is transferred from the developer to the Spring IOC container. In a traditional Java application, developers create objects manually using the new keyword. In Spring, the IOC container creates, manages, and provides those objects automatically. So in simple words, instead of you controlling object creation, Spring takes that responsibility. This is called inversion of control. In this example, we have a normal Java application. So if user service needs a user repository, then you create it yourself by using new keyword. That means you are controlling the object creation. But in Spring, if you simply mark your classes with annotations like service annotation or repository annotation, Spring creates those objects, keep them inside the IOC container, and provide them whenever they are needed. So the control of creating and managing objects move from the developer to Spring, and that's exactly why it's called inversion of control. There's a simple way to remember this. Before Spring, you controlled the objects, and with Spring, Spring controls the object. So if interviewer asks, what is the inversion of control? You can confidently answer, inversion of control is a design principle where the responsibility of creating and managing objects is transferred from the developer to the Spring IOC container. Now let's move forward to question 5. What is dependency injection? Let's take a simple example. So our user service needs a user repository to save user data. Now in normal Java application, we create the user repository object ourselves using the new keyword. But in Spring, we don't do that. Spring has already created the user repository bean and stored it inside the IOC container. So whenever user service needs it, Spring automatically provides that bean. This process is called dependency injection. So always remember, IOC tells us who creates the object, and dependency injection tells us how one object gets another object. So if interviewer asks, what is dependency injection? Then you can say dependency injection is a technique in which Spring automatically provides the required dependencies to a class instead of the developer creating them manually. Now let's see next question. Constructor injection, field injection and setter injection. So in previous question we learned what is dependency injection. Now how does Spring actually inject those dependencies? So Spring gives us 3 options: constructor injection, setter injection and field injection. Let's understand them one by one. In constructor injection, Spring provides the dependency through the constructor while creating the object. This means your object always gets the dependencies it needs right from the beginning. So this is the example of constructor injection. So here we have this user repository class. Then this is the service class. So we used final user repository here. Final ensures the dependency is assigned only once. And here Spring automatically calls this constructor and passes the required bean. And no auto-wired annotation is needed here if there is only one constructor. Now let's see setter injection. In setter injection, Spring creates the object first and then injects the dependency using a setter method. And this approach is useful when a dependency is optional. Now we have field injection, where we simply place auto-wired annotation above the field and Spring injects the dependency directly. And it's simple to write, but it's generally not the best choice for real projects because it makes testing and maintenance harder. So if an interviewer asks which approach you prefer, then you can confidently say constructor injection. It's the most recommended approach because it makes dependencies clear, keeps the object in valid state and is easier to test. And we have this quick comparison table here. You can take screenshot of this table, then we'll move forward. Now we know what the IOC container is, but the next interview question is, how does the IOC container actually work? The answer is actually quite simple. When your Spring Boot application starts, Spring first creates the IOC container. Then it scans your project and looks for classes marked with annotations like component, service, repository, and controller. Whenever it finds one of these classes, it creates an object and stores it as a Spring Bean. Now suppose your user controller needs a user service. Instead of creating a new object, Spring simply checks the IOC container, finds the existing user service bean and injects it automatically. The same happens when user service needs user repository. So the IOC container is not just creating objects, it's also storing them, managing them and providing them whenever they are needed. So if an interviewer asks, how does the IOC container work? You can say the IOC container scans the application, creates Spring Beans, stores them, manages their life cycle and injects them whenever they are required. So that's all about how IOC container work. Now let's see the next question. So question 8 is, what is the bean life cycle in Spring? So what happens after a bean is created? Every Spring Bean goes through a complete life cycle. First, Spring creates the bean. Next, If that bean depends on another bean, Spring injects the required dependency. After that, Spring calls the initialization method. This is where you can write any startup logic like loading configuration or preparing resources. Once initialization is complete, the bean is ready to use and your application starts calling its methods. Finally, when the application is shutting down, Spring calls the destruction method so you can release resources and perform cleanup. And this is the code example. Here we created a user service class and marked with service annotation. And because we use service annotation, it marks this class as a Spring Bean. The IOC container creates and manages it. Then this is user service constructor. The constructor is called when Spring creates the bean. Then we use post constructor annotation here. So Spring automatically calls this method after dependency injection is completed. It's commonly used for initialization task. Then this register user method. This is the method your application uses after the bean is fully ready. At destroy method, we used pre-destroy annotation. So Spring automatically calls this method before destroying the bean. It's used for cleanup activities. So now if an interviewer asks what is the bean lifecycle, you can say the bean lifecycle is the complete journey of a Spring Bean from creation, dependency injection and initialization to being ready for use and finally destruction when the application shuts down. Now let's see next question. What is the difference between component annotation, service annotation, repository annotation and controller annotation? So the first thing you should remember is that all four annotations create Spring Beans. The difference is where we use them. If you have general purpose class like a utility or helper class, then you can use component annotation. Now if the class contains your application's business logic, then use service annotation. Now third is repository annotation. It marks the class as the data access layer. Spring creates it as a bean. So if the class communicates with the database, use repository annotation. Now fourth is controller annotation. So if class handles incoming HTTP request, then you can use controller annotation. Then REST controller annotation. So if you are building REST APIs, you'll usually use REST controller annotation. It is a special version of controller annotation that returns the data directly. So don't think of these annotations as a competitors. They all create Spring Beans, but each one has a specific responsibility in your application. A simple way to remember them is component for common classes, service for business logic, repository for database operations, and controller for handling client requests. Now let's move forward. In the previous question, we learned that annotations like service, repository and controller create Spring Beans. But how does Spring know where these classes are? We never manually tell Spring about every class in our project. That's exactly where component scan annotation helps. When the application starts, Spring scans the packages you specify. If it finds classes annotated with component annotation, service annotation, repository annotation or controller annotation, then it automatically creates beans for them and stores them inside the IOC container. In Spring Boot, you usually don't write component scan annotation yourself because it's already included inside the Spring Boot application annotation. But it's still an important interview question because interviewers want to know how Spring discovers your beans behind the scenes. So if interviewer asks what is component scan annotation, you can say component scan annotation tells Spring where to scan for classes so it can automatically discover and register Spring Beans. We have a user service class and a configuration class, app config. So in configuration class, we used configuration annotation. It marks the class as a Spring configuration class. Then we used component scan annotation and write base package here, com.drill coding. So it scanned the com.drill coding package and all its sub packages for Spring Beans. In user service class, we used service annotation. When Spring finds this annotation during scanning, it creates a bean for the class. And also base package specifies the package from where scanning should be begin. Everything inside that package and its sub packages is scanned automatically. Here we have this flow diagram. So when your application starts, Spring doesn't automatically know about every class you wrote. So we used component scan annotation. It tells Spring that go and scan packages. Then if it finds service annotation, repository annotation, controller annotation or component annotation, then it will create Spring Beans. After that, it stores them and hands it over to the IOC container. From that point on, the container manages its entire life cycle. Now let's move forward. What is the difference between bean annotation and component annotation? So the first thing you should remember is that both create Spring Beans. The real difference is how the bean is created. If it's your own class, then simply add component annotation. Spring will find it during component scanning and automatically create a bean. But what if the class belongs to a third-party library? You can't open that library and add component annotation. That's where bean annotation comes in. You write a method inside a configuration class, create the object there and return it. Spring takes that returned object and manages it as a bean. Spring takes that returned object and manages it as a bean. Now let's see code example. In this email service class, we used component annotation. So Spring finds this class during component scanning and creates a bean automatically. Here you can see two classes. One is PDF generator and the other one is configuration class, which is AppConfig. Here we used configuration annotation. It marks the class as a configuration class and Spring process all bean methods inside it. Here Spring calls this method during application startup and the returned object becomes a Spring Bean. So here you decide how the object is created and Spring manages it afterward. So a simple way to remember this is component annotation is for automatic bean creation and bean annotation is for manual bean creation inside a configuration class. Now let's move forward. Okay, so far we learned that Spring creates and manages beans. But here's the next question. If multiple classes need the same bean, does Spring create a new object every time? The answer depends on something called bean scope. So bean scope tells Spring how many objects it should create for a particular bean. By default, Spring uses singleton scope. That means only one object is created and the same object is shared whenever it's needed. But sometimes you don't want to share the same object. In that case, you can use prototype scope when Spring creates a new object every time the bean is requested. So the singleton is the default one, and if you are building a web application, Spring also provides a scope like request, session and application, each designed for different use cases. Okay, I'm going to explain one by one. So first one is singleton scope. As I already told you, it creates only one object of the bean. Whenever any class requests that bean, Spring returns the same object, and this is the default scope in Spring, and this is the example of singleton bean scope. In this code example, we didn't specify any scope, so Spring will use singleton scope. Now second one is prototype scope. In prototype scope, Spring creates a new object every time the bean is requested. If three different classes request the bean, Spring creates three different objects and use prototype when each request needs its own independent object. And here this is the example of prototype scope. You can see at the top of class, we used scope annotation and mentioned prototype here. Now there are more scope like request scope. In request scope, a new bean is created for every HTTP request. And if two users send two different requests, then each user gets its own bean instance. And this scope is available only in web applications. Now next one is session scope. In session scope, one bean is created for each user session and the same bean is reused throughout that user session, and different users get different bean instances. Now fifth one is application scope. Here only one bean is created for the entire web application and it is shared across all users and requests. Now sixth one is WebSocket scope. Here a bean is created for each WebSocket section, and this scope is mainly used in real-time applications like chat systems. So question 13 is singleton versus prototype bean scope. By default, Spring uses singleton scope. That means Spring creates only one object of the bean and shares that same object whenever it's needed. For example, if both user controller and admin controller needs a user service, they will both receive the same user service object. Now let's look at the prototype scope. Here Spring doesn't share the object. Instead, it creates a brand new object every time the bean is requested. So if 3 different classes request the bean, Spring creates 3 different objects. A simple way to remember this: singleton means one shared object and prototype means a new object for every request. Okay, now what's the difference between primary annotation and qualifier annotation? Let's understand this with a simple example. Suppose your application has an interface called payment service and there are 2 implementations, credit card payment and UPI payment. Both are Spring Beans. Now imagine another class needs a payment service. The problem is Spring finds 2 matching beans. Now Spring doesn't know which one to inject. So the application fails with an exception. This is exactly where we used primary annotation and qualifier annotation. So in this example, you can see we have an interface, payment service, and this is the implementation class, credit card payment. You can see it implements payment service here. So here we used primary annotation. So it marks this bean as the default choice. Whenever multiple beans are available, Spring selects this bean automatically. Now UPI payment is the second implementation class of payment service. And here we are not using primary annotation. Now this is the order service class. We are injecting the bean here. So the expected output will be payment using credit card. Because we used primary annotation on the first implementation, so the output becomes payment using credit card. And here in this class we used qualifier annotation and specifies UPI payment here. So now Spring ignores the default bean and injects the bean specified in qualifier annotation. Because it tells Spring exactly which bean should be injected, so it overrides the default selected by primary annotation and output will become payment using UPI. So primary annotation sets the default bean and qualifier annotation selects a specific bean. What is auto-wired annotation? Auto-wired annotation is a Spring annotation used to automatically inject one Spring bean into another. Instead of creating objects manually using the new keyword, Spring finds the required bean from the IOC container and injects it automatically. So in simple words, auto-wired annotation tells Spring to automatically provide the required bean. What is Spring Boot? Spring Boot is an extension of the Spring framework that makes it easier and faster to build Spring applications. And it provides features like auto configuration, starter dependencies, embedded servers, production ready features so that developers can build applications with minimal configurations. In traditional Spring, we have to use configuration annotation here, enable WebMVC annotation, and developers also had to configure Tomcat, dispatcher servlet, dependencies, and project setup. But in Spring Boot, just one main class starts the entire application, and Spring Boot performs most of the configuration automatically. This is the main annotation of a Spring Boot application. It enables component scanning, auto configuration, and configuration support. This starts the Spring Boot application, and internally it creates the IOC container, scans for Spring Beans, perform auto configuration, starts the embedded Tomcat server, and makes the application ready to receive request. So this single annotation is responsible for all these things. Now let's see next question. What are the advantages of Spring Boot? We already discussed it, that Spring Boot provides several advantages that make application development faster and easier. And some of the major advantages are auto configuration. Spring automatically configure many components based on the dependencies present in your project. For example, if you add the Spring Web dependency, Spring Boot automatically configured Tomcat, dispatcher servlet, Spring MVC. You don't have to configure them manually. Now starter dependencies. So instead of adding multiple individual libraries, Spring Boot provides starter dependencies, which is Spring Boot Starter Web. This single dependency brings all the required libraries for building a web application. Now third one is embedded server. Spring Boot comes with an embedded server like Tomcat, Jetty, So you don't need to install or configure a separate server. Simply run the application and the server starts automatically. Fourth one is minimal configuration. As you know, traditional Spring applications requires loads of XML files or Java configuration. Spring Boot provides sensible defaults, so very little configuration is needed. Now fifth one is production ready features. Spring Boot includes useful production features through Spring Boot Actuator such as health checks, metrics, monitoring, application information. These help monitor applications in production. Now sixth one is faster development. Because most setup is automatic, developers can spend more time writing business logic instead of configuration, and this increases productivity and speeds up development. So in simple words, Spring Boot reduces development time by handling most of the configuration automatically, allowing developers to focus on writing business logic. I hope now you understood the advantages of Spring Boot. Now let's move forward. What is a Spring Boot application annotation? So this is the main annotation used to start a Spring Boot application. It is a combination of three annotation: configuration annotation, enable auto configuration annotation, and component scan annotation. So in simple words, Spring Boot application annotation is a shortcut annotation that combines the three most important Spring Boot annotations into one. Now this is the code example. This is our class drill coding application and we used Spring Boot application annotation over here. So this is the main annotation that enables the core features of the Spring Boot, and here this method starts the application and internally it creates the IOC container, perform component scanning, perform auto configuration, create Spring Beans, and starts the embedded server. So you don't have to write all three annotations separately. Now let's understand what happens internally when a Spring Boot application starts. At first, Spring Boot application is executed. It combines configuration annotation, enable auto configuration, and component scan. Then Spring creates the IOC container, registers all the required beans, starts the embedded Tomcat server, and finally your application is ready to handle request. So that's all about Spring Boot annotation. Now let's move forward. What is auto configuration in Spring Boot? So Spring Boot looks at the dependency you have added to your project. Based on those dependencies, it automatically configures everything that's required. For example, if you add Spring Boot Starter Web, then Spring Boot understands that you are building a web application, so it automatically configures Spring MVC, starts an embedded Tomcat server, creates the required beans, and prepares the application to handle HTTP request. You don't have to write all that configuration yourself. That's why Spring Boot applications require much less setup than traditional Spring applications. So if an interviewer asks, what is auto configuration? Then you can say auto configuration is a Spring Boot feature that automatically configures the application based on the dependencies available in the project, and it reducing the need for manual configuration. What are starter dependencies in Spring Boot? So in the previous question, we learned that Spring Boot perform auto configuration based on the dependencies present in our project. But here the next question, how do we add those dependencies? So before Spring Boot, developers had to add many individual libraries manually. For example, if you wanted to build a web application, you had to add Spring MVC, Jackson, Tomcat, logging libraries, and many others separately. And managing all those dependencies and their versions was time consuming. So Spring Boot solved this problem using starter dependencies. A starter dependency is simply a ready-made bundle of related libraries. For example, if you add Spring Boot Starter Web, Spring Boot automatically includes everything needed for building a web application. Similarly, if you are working with databases, you can use Spring Boot Starter Data JPA, and Spring Boot brings all the required JPA and Hibernate libraries. So if an interviewer asks what are starter dependency, then you can say starter dependencies are predefined dependency bundles that include all the libraries required for a specific feature, making project setup much easier and reducing dependency management. Now let's move forward to question 21. This is very common Spring Boot interview question. What is the difference between application.properties and application.yml. The first thing to remember is that both files serve exactly the same purpose. They store application configuration like the server port, database settings, logging configuration, and many other properties. The only real difference is the format. In application.properties, configuration is written using the key value format, and in application.yml, the same configuration is written using YAML syntax with indentation. And many developers prefer application.properties for smaller projects because it's simple. On the other hand, application.yml becomes much more readable when the configuration is large and contains many nested properties. So if an interviewer asks which one is better, then you can say neither is better. Both are fully supported by Spring Boot. The choice depends on the project's requirement and the team's preference. What are Spring profiles? Imagine you're working on a real project. During development, you might connect to a local database. But when the application goes to production, it needs to connect to the production database instead. So should we edit the configuration file every time we switch environments? No, that's exactly why Spring profiles exist. Spring profiles let us create separate configuration files for different environments like development, testing, and production. Then we simply activate the profile we want and Spring Boot automatically loads the correct configuration. This keeps the application clean, avoid manual changes, and makes development much easier. Now the question is, what is configuration properties? Imagine your application has lots of configuration values like the application name, version, database settings, API URLs, and many more. One option is to use value annotation for every property. That works, but as the number of properties grows, the code becomes repetitive and difficult to maintain. So a much better approach is to use configuration properties annotation. With this annotation, you create a Java class, specify a prefix, and Spring automatically maps all matching properties into that object. This keeps the code cleaner, more organized, and much easier to maintain. And look at here, we used configuration properties over here, and above this we used component annotation, which we already covered. It will make app properties a Spring Bean, so it can be injected into other classes. Now if an interviewer asks you what is configuration properties annotation, then you can say configuration properties annotation is used to bind a group of related configuration properties from the configuration file into a Java object to make configuration management clean and type safe. Now let's move forward to the 24th question. What is the difference between command line runner and application runner? Sometimes after your application starts, you want to perform some startup task. For example, loading initial data, creating default users, checking a database connection, or printing startup information. So Spring Boot provides two interfaces for this, command line runner and application runner. Now interesting part is that both are executed automatically after the application starts. The main difference is how they receive command line arguments. Command line runner receives them as a simple string array, and application runner receives an application argument object which provides additional methods for working with command line options. So if you just need to run some startup logic, either one works perfectly. But if you need to process command line options in a structured way, application runner is usually the better choice. So if an interviewer asks what's the difference between command line runner and application runner, you can say both execute code after the Spring Boot application starts. The difference is that command line runner uses a string array while application runner uses the more feature-rich application arguments object. Now the last question is, how does Spring Boot start internally? Okay, let me explain with simple internal flow. So every Spring Boot application begins with the Spring application.run method. It may look like just one line of code, but internally it performs several important steps. First, Spring creates the IOC container, also known as the application context. Then it reads the configuration files like application.properties or application.yml. After that, it scans your project for classes annotated with component, service, repository, and controller annotation and registers them as the Spring Beans. Spring Boot performs auto configuration based on the dependencies you added to the project. Then it creates all required beans, injects their dependencies, and if it's a web application, starts the embedded Tomcat server. Once all these steps are complete, the application is ready to accept request. So if an interviewer asks, how does Spring Boot start internally? You can confidently explain this startup sequence instead of simply saying that Spring application.run method starts the application. So that's all about today's video. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and stay tuned for second part of this series. See you in the next video. Till then, keep learning, keep coding.